the table outside of this room, not in this room. And also, we would like to ask anyone who's wearing a campaign button for a particular candidate to remove that at this time, please. Put it on once you get out the door. All right, thank you. Welcome again. We'll now have the opening statements from the candidates from mayor. They will each have 2 minutes, and we're going again in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Ms. Brandon.
Good evening, or I should say good afternoon, everyone. This is really fantastic to see such a crowd for this forum. So first of all, I'd like to thank the nonpartisan committee for hosting this and making this possible because it does give me the opportunity to meet and have some questions answered that you may have to each candidate. So thank you for all of you showing up, as well as all of you that are either watching on TV or by stream. So my name is May Brandon, and I have been a trustee for the past 15 years here at the Village of Park Forest. I currently serve as the mayor pro tem, being that I am the senior trustee. So whenever the mayor is out of town, then I become that position. I'm a longtime resident. I've been here since 1966, and I've been involved with Park Forest almost as long as I've been here. I spent probably about a first year kind of getting to know not just Park Forest, but also the rest of the area as I came here from the East Coast. So when my son started school, I became involved, and I've been involved in this village and other civic organizations for the entire time that I've been here in the state. So I look forward to answering your questions and you're getting to know more about me and my viewpoints. Again, thank you for coming out.
Mr. Brown?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? It's a full house tonight. First of all, I want to thank all of the audience participants, the people who television and streaming, the nonpartisan group, and once again, the audience participation is here. I'm thankful to have the opportunity to present the accomplishments that I've made and my ideas that I want to bring forth to Great America in this body that I'm speaking in front of today. I also want to thank the candidates that are also running, saying that they want to represent this town. I came in Park Forest 10 years ago, and my son was born here. From the 10 years, I started out as a booster club parent, where I was part of the Rich East 227 school district, trying to improve the quality of the students' lives. I also became a Rotarian, and I held an office in that position. From that point, I became a Kiwanis, where I hold a position in that civic organization as well. My son plays baseball, basketball, and football. I also attend Grace Church in Park Forest. I'm a homeowner in Park Forest. I was a trustee in Park Forest. I have sat on a lot of commissions, and I was the liaison as a trustee for different boards, economic development being one, Parks and Recs being another. I'm a job developer by trade, and I also coach basketball here. I've been doing that since my son was in with Biddy Ball up until now. I do 3rd and 4th grade. Whether I ran for mayor and I lost, then I ran for trustee and I won. But in either situation, I've never been absent of Park Forest. I've always kept the roles that I have. I do not do photo ops. I'm always continuing to give back to this community, and I am solely invested, not only from the time that I put in, but the taxes that I pay and the civic organizations that I belong to. Thank you.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Good afternoon. My name is Renee Hawthorne. I've lived in the village of Park Forest for the past 40 years. I've raised my 3 children, age 28, 25, and 21. I am now raising my grandchildren, ages 6 and 1, in this very fine community. We moved here when I was roughly about 7 years old, so now I'm telling my age. And Park Forest literally changed the trajectory of my life. This is why I live, move, and breathe the village of Park Forest. I am both dedicated and committed. I have served as a proud graduate of Forest Trail, Rich East, Prairie State, and Governor State University. I have served for the past 17 years with the Park Forest Chicago Heights School District 163, where I currently serve as their project manager. I am currently a member of State Representative Anthony DeLuca's Education Committee. I serve as a youth commissioner. I am a member of the Rich East Booster Club, and I initiated the hashtag Tim Jones 204 initiative. Tim Jones was shot after playing a basketball game with our students, and where there's a need, I sow a seed. When we came back to school after playing the basketball game against the police department, we needed something to do and a way for our students to actually grieve what happened to Tim. We subsequently bought tablecloths that were blue and tied them from Michelle Obama all the way down to the actual police department, and Tim Jones hashtag 204 was actually birthed. As a result of that, we then started GoFundMes and had programming, and you can actually Google Renee Hawthorne and those events. I'm a proud member of Faith Movers Church, where the pastor Moses Heron is my pastor. I have served there for the past 3 years. Before then, I served with New Beginnings Church for 11 years as their COO. That is the church where the pastor sat on the rooftop that came against gun violence and the negative shooting. I am proud to sit here. I came as a resident of Section 8, and I stand here today as a homeowner. I stand here today owning my car, and I am proud to be Park Forest. I can show you where we started. And thank you.
Mr. Vanderbilt.
I'd like to thank the nonpartisan committee, the local government of Park Forest, for sponsoring this forum, and to St. Irenaeus for the blue mask services that were dedicated to Officer Jones and then our police and firefighters. Everybody needs to come out to that. This opportunity all started when my great uncle, a World War II Army tank operator, was looking for a place to raise his family after the war. Like many of the Park Forest original residents, there are stories of heroism and courage, overcoming great odds to start a family in Park Forest. My name is John Vanderbilt. I am a homegrown Park Forester. I attended local public schools here from Hooth, graduating from Rich East High School as Mr. Rich East. And Kathleen, my high school sweetheart, and our wonderful wife of 10 years, love you, babe, and mother of my 2 soon-to-be 3 boys. She's also a local public school graduate from Talala to Creekmoney Middle and High School. We have chosen to raise our family here. I'm a tireless worker for the residents of this community. I'm currently a sitting village trustee. I've also volunteered for numerous committees and commissions. I'm especially proud of starting the Education Committee that was instrumental in preventing the closure of Talala Elementary. And now we have to take a stance on the closure of Rich East High School. I love Park Forest. My 5th generation Park Forester boys and I enjoy exploring the wetlands, riding bikes around town, trick-or-treating, sledding on the hill in winter, camping in Central Park, swimming at Aqua Center, hiking Thorn Creek after Garlic Fest, working and reminiscing with my Rocket family and fellow Park Foresters at Kiwanis Pancake Day. Kathleen and I never miss a chance to take the boys to the library, Freedom Hall for a player musical, attend Main Street Nights. There is such a wealth of things to do here. I can't wait for the opportunity as mayor to share my passion and love for Park Forest with you. And I know this will be a lively audience, and I can't wait for your questions. Thank you for this great crowd.
Okay, perfect time. We'll now go to questions, and I want to tell you that each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question. And after everyone has made their answer, if any one of the other candidates would like a 1-minute rebuttal, he or she should raise their hand, and 1-minute rebuttal will be allowed. The first question will go first to Mr. Brown. Why do you want to be mayor, and what is your main focus and platform?
Great question. I don't think it's a secret because I've talked about this over and over again. I'm super invested in Park Forest, namely because my son was born here and will be here until he leaves and go to college. I grew up in a community called Roseland, and Roseland was like the most beautiful place in Chicago that you could ever imagine. But over time, a lot of things has happened, and now it looked really, really bad. And it's as if being here in Park Forest, I'm seeing this movie over again. Just like the businesses is leaving and have left Park Forest, that's the exact same thing that happened in Roseland. Gangs came into Roseland, gangs are coming in here. I've dealt with an organization called YAP, a Youth Advocate Program. Once again, this organization is in Chicago, but they deal with at-risk kids. We need a program like that here because these kids are not shooting basketballs like we're training them here. They shoot guns. And we're having those same situation. If you go to any other basketball games and football games here in Park Forest, it's usually a huge fight afterward. And you can check with the Park Forest Police Department. I've been involved in those fights to break them up and to stop. When I say that I'm invested and I'm involved with Park Forest, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'm a job developer by trade. I've hired probably over 500 people in the Park Forest area alone. About 2,200 people in the Southland and the South Side of Chicago. Not only do I hire people, but we get people job ready first, and then we put them in job positions. I have the connections. That's what I do for a living. I deal with small businesses and Fortune 500 companies. I could bring those businesses into Park Forest and start getting people employed. The other thing that we need to deal with is transportation. Right now, we ran into a problem getting people jobs because we could get them a job. They have no way to get there because our transportation sucks, and one bus that we have is about to come to an end, and they won't even have that transportation to go to different places outside of Park Forest.
Ms. Hawthorne?
Absolutely. Why do I want to be mayor? I have asked myself this very same question. As I alluded to earlier, my baby is 21 years old, and I've been on my job for 17 years, and I really could be living my best life. However, I believe it is a calling. And where there is a need, you sow a seed. For 7 years, I ran a free camp for over 200 children right at Sesto Park because I saw a need. Children are not bad, they're bored. If you give them something to do, they'll do it. So I was never a parent that sent my children to the park. I took them there. And it takes a village. Not only does it take a village to raise a child, I believe that if you train them up in the way that they should go, then when we're older, we don't have to worry about all these violent situations, and they will take pride in their neighborhood. I believe that as a result of my giving back to my community, my very job as a project manager was created as a result of that. And we wrote 21st century grants that are highly competitive, and our district has received it for the past 10 years. But not only has our program been top of the line and state of the art, our RFP, our request for proposal, the state told us we did not even need to reapply as a result of my program managing for the over 400 students that we serve in the after-school program. So hats off to the Village of Park Forest. Again, as a result of, to School District 163. And again, as a result of my work within the community, District 163 has just received an additional $2.3 million grant based on the works and the conferences that I've attended and taught at in Springfield and both Bloomington North. So the reason I want to be the next mayor of Chicago, of Park Forest, is to affect change. My name is Renee Hawthorne, and I'll bring that message.
Mr. Vanderbilt?
Question?
Why do you want to be mayor, and what is your main focus or platform?
In my lifetime, Park Forest was over 35,000 residents in the beginning. I've seen 10,000 residents leave our community. Depopulation has put us to where we're at today. We have got to start moving forward on what we're going to do to address these situations. We have a tennis and health club that's losing $110,000, an aqua center that's losing $220,000. We can start adapting these places and really start turning them into attracting the youth, attracting different clientele. The tennis and health club is 85% non-resident usage, 15% is resident. If we turn into a multi-recreational use facility to where we can still have tennis and then remove the racket clubs, and then we can then have your indoor football, indoor baseball, indoor soccer, indoor anything. We could have then a whole new clientele coming into the village and then also support the youth that we see out in the community. I also want to start a summer youth employment program that will start this summer with the work of the board and the other village staff. We can start a summer youth employment program to where we can employ youth to maintain the vacant lots throughout the community. Right now, we reimburse someone $360 that is sometimes an outside vendor to maintain our lots. And if we're not even going to have them maintained by someone outside the community, we definitely need to have our youth get that job. I remember growing up, that's one of the things I remember, is that there was always employment opportunities from the village to work in the village, and we need to bring that back. We also need to lower our water bills. We need to start selling excess water. I still want to maintain the sovereignty of our water, but depopulation has taken 1/3 of our community off the water line, but we still have to maintain the same amount of pressure for fire suppression throughout the community. That means we're pumping water and it's getting sent right back into the plant. We have got to do something with it. And I'm not talking about 12-ounce bottles, I'm talking 5-ounce gallons or larger. We're seeing businesses throughout the community switch to buy this because they're getting LEED certifications to actually purchase locally produced water sources. So go to Menards, look at the back of it. It was produced in Illinois. It can be produced in Park Forest.
Thank you. Ms. Brandon?
Thank you. I asked myself that question too. But it's not, we have had for the past 20 years, one mayor, and that's Mayor Osterberg. And he is retiring. So this is a point of transition. And I think that when you're going through a transition, it's important to have leadership that has experience. And that's what I bring to the board. And that's what I would bring as a mayor, is that leadership. There are various different ideas as to how we can move forward, but all of those need to be looked at strategically. We need to look at the finance part of it. We need to look at how practical it would be. There are very good ideas, but some of them may not be practical for us. And so I'm not for, I'm not against looking at various ideas as to how we bring about things in Park Forest, but I do think we need to look at them strategically. We have been a village, even through the time of the housing downturn, that has maintained stability financially and otherwise. When other villages were having financial difficulties, we never borrowed to pay a bill. We paid all of our bills on time, and we kept the village running successfully. There are lots of positives about this village, and what I see is adding to those so that we do bring residents, new residents, and we do bring new businesses in, but new businesses that fit our community. And that's what we have to take a look at. So as your mayor, I look forward to serving and helping, and you're an important part of that, because we need you to give us the ideas too. This was a volunteer community, and I want to see that volunteerism increase and be what it was at one time previously. So thank you very much.
Everybody, please.
Okay.
Second highest property tax in the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Should I make a rebuttal as well? With that, we are paying our bills on time, and we are, but we're paying them on the back of the taxpayers, the property taxpayers, to the point where we're losing houses in every community. Not one community, not one side of Park Forest. You could go from Tamarack all the way to Lincoln Highway. People are losing their houses, not just one person, I'm talking about generation. Like this generation, and they take over the house, that generation lose the house. We're on third and fourth generations that have lost houses in Park Forest. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, when we're doing this forum, let's not take for granted what we're here for. We're here to be educated and learn about who's really investing, who's really have the resources to run for this position. For as the summer jobs are concerned, we already do summer jobs here. Robin Kelly sponsored one, and the Youth Commission sponsored another. At the Youth Commission, I'm the person who teach the kids how to interview, because people, adults, doctorate degrees, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and high school degrees do not know how to interview for a position. So I get those kids job ready so they could go out and fulfill a job. And then the community guard thing, who's going to keep it up?
All right.
And
You want to rebuttal? Okay.
education and information will be key to our taxes. We need to make sure that we are lobbying and we are knocking down the doors of our legislators, letting them know how this is affecting us individually as a community. But even though we're the second highest and our taxes are being used far as the school district is concerned, I think that education and information will be really important and vital to helping lower our property taxes.
Okay, this question will be, one more rebuttal, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, our taxes are the second highest, and yes, you know, one of the things that has happened over time is that whenever there was a referendum for this village to, coming from the school district, to increase their taxes so that they could have more to work with in terms of providing the education of our students, this community passed those referendums. So we are now where we are. And it's, you know, and it's not just a thing about just us. It's the disinvestment in the whole entire Southland region. We're not by ourselves, so we really need to work together with our legislators, with the other towns to look at how do we solve these problems, not just the taxes, but other things that go along with them. So it's not just a Park Forest thing, it's really a Southland thing. You all just go down Cicero, go down Route 30, and remember what used to be there and what isn't there now.
We'll begin with Ms. Hawthorne on this question. The questioner is certainly presenting his or her own opinion in this question. It is, what will you do to rein in the high payroll of village employees?
Okay, so when you see my literature out there, and I took the acronym taxes and I broke that down. So it's, my T is actually for talks with the mayor. The A actually stands for assessing the local commercial and residential property taxes. But again, we do know that we are, I want to say there is well over, I'll choose 36-figure roughly paying jobs within the village of Park Forest. I think that there is an opportunity to look at and assess the roles that individuals are playing in the community and how we could perhaps offset some of those costs. As a mayor, I know that I would not be personally responsible for making that decisions, as our council is ran by a village manager. But I believe that it would be very important to sit down and assess that budget and see how we can work on actually offsetting some of those payroll and human resource costs.
Mr. Vanderbilt?
You know, I touched on this earlier, but making the facilities we have multi-use, the tennis and health club needs to become a multi-recreational use facility. We need to attract more clientele than just tennis, when especially it's only 15% of the residents using it. The Aqua Center, I love the Aqua Center. I don't want to close it. So we have to adapt and we have to make it a year-round facility. We're going to be spending upwards of $1 million in the next 5 years for long-term planning because the pools are starting to become falling apart, deteriorating and crumbling at the bottom. We cannot keep fixing it over time. We see what happens with our roads when we do that. So the Aqua Center long-term, we've got to look at it. And that's not just going to be me. We're going to have to work with the Recreation and Parks Commission, work with you as residents, work with the board. But we are going to have to work together to come up with solutions on what we're going to do to not keep footing the bill. In fact, you know, we have kids who try to get in the Aqua Center and they can't. And we see an end result. So what we need to do is maybe look at it as an income base. You know, what can we do? But there's something that we collectively have to start looking at. Freedom Hall is losing money. It's around $70,000 a year. What can we do to start attracting different clientele? What can we do to attract different and larger crowds so that it becomes a full-time facility, so that those village expenses on payrolls are equaled out to what's happening within the programs themselves. Also, we need to look at long-term is what we're going to do with our water bills. And I've already hit on that, but we've lost 10,000 residents. We've got to do something with the water bills. And this is going to be a collective idea. But yet, I don't want to get rid of our water. And Western Avenue right now, well, I don't want to sell our sovereignty of our water, is what I mean. I want to maintain control of the water source and plants and manufacturing and distribution. But we've got to find other people to put on there. And yes, Agrati Manufacturing uses the address of Park Forest, but we do not directly collect the tax funds from there, as they are in unincorporated Will County, not Park Forest.
Ms. Brandon?
What was your question?
Well, I prefaced it with the fact that this is based on the writer's opinion. What will you do to rein in the high payroll of village employees?
Yes, the person's opinion. Okay. We take a look at, I should say, our managers. It's a process to always take a look at our payroll. You know, what are we paying people? Are they comparable? We've had payroll studies that have been done previously, and we continue to do those things. I question the high part, and that when we did the surveys of what other communities were paying their employees, we were lower, and in fact had to raise, but chose to raise our employees' payroll because we were on the low end. So the high part I do question. One of the things that we do is that when someone is leaving or retiring or whatever that might be, we look and say, now, do we really need to fill that position? Can we take a look at how that particular position might be job shared? That is something that we continue to do in order to keep a control on how much we spend for employees. But our employees really are what makes this village what it is. We are really looked at with high esteem with the quality of our employees. You look at our police department, our fire department, our staff here, our village manager is highly regarded in that he often is called to consult with new village managers and other villages. So I have to take my hat off to our staff. I don't feel that we are overpaid, that they are overpaid. I think that they do serve us quite well. We keep our employees long-term. When someone retires, they've been here for a while, and that's because, why? You stay at a place that you enjoy working with, you enjoy working with the people, and you feel that you are treated properly. So, yes, I'm standing here for our employees.
Mr. Brown?
Oh, boy. I'm going to get crucified for this one. But my concern is the taxpayers. I'm not going to ask you to find another home, but I will ask you to find another job. I'm not trying to take a job from anyone, but accountability will be up front. My first 100 days, if you are accountable for the income that you're making, I have absolutely no problem with you maintaining employment here. But if you're not carrying your weight, we got to cut the fat. Now, when you walk outside of Park Forest and you see your streets have potholes in them, you have no businesses downtown. Every piece of clothing that you all have here, you didn't buy it from here. You had to go out of town and buy it. My son, when he graduated from kindergarten, have baseball games, we had to go out of town to celebrate. So we have a development problem. We have the best part of Lincoln Highway for miles to see, but we can't get the property that's next door to the metro station up for sale. I think that the Walmart would have been ideal there, so when people get off the metro train, they could get off the metro train and go do their odds and ends of shopping and then go home. But for some reason, we just can't do it. With payroll, we look at the salaries, and somebody had mentioned village manager, you look around the other towns, the village manager's not making as much as the village manager make here. And when you also look at when May Brandon was saying that all of these places are closed, the reason why we're not closing anything because we don't have anything to close. If I want to go and get something to eat, which my son and myself do on a regular basis, to pick up cleats for sports or something like that, we have to exit off of Lincoln Highway from Park Forest to go eat, shop, and do any entertainment, anything that we need to do. So yeah, it will be some accountability that will be held for the people that's on payroll right now. And payroll, if you all go and look at the budget, they have this dollar sign that's broke up in a budget. That is the individually highest tax-paying body that we have is the payroll. The school district is second, and then you have to collectively put all of the school districts together, 227, 162, 163, all of those, and then they will be more than what the payroll is in Park Forest.
Thank you. Any, we have.
And thank you. The question was, what would I do? I did mention that the whole meeting and assessing the budget with the village manager would be first on my agenda. However, power in the partnership. Interns would be amazing as far as job readiness and preparedness. We can actually seek out partnering with higher level institutions and making sure that we can add some internships, not just during the summer, but year round. They're always looking for things to do. So another thing, when you mentioned education, participation, power in the partnership.
Two things, I don't remember the closing part, but in terms of interns, we do have interns. We partner with Governor State University. We've had interns in our Department of Economic Development and Planning. We have interns in Sustainability Department. We've had interns working with our communications director. So we do connect with other schools, primarily Governor State, but we've connected with other schools too. And doing that partnership in helping to serve as a bridge to help those coming from school to be able to understand what the role and what the jobs are all about. So that's something that is very important and works very well for us.
Okay, Mr. Vanderbilt?
Thank you. Just to let everybody know, in 2009, there were 263 village employees. 2018, 260. For Rich East, it's the number 4 employer of jobs in the community, Rich Township 227. That's 171. We've got to start taking a stance on the closure of Rich East High School and to maintain Rich East in our community. So just wanted to let you know all that. Thank you.
Okay, the next question, okay, the next questioner is written about the fact that there are companies that advertising in the village that they will sell your home no matter the condition. Okay, how does that advertising affect the marketing of Park Forest, and what, if anything, can the village do about that? And we will start with Mr. Vanderbilt.
Oh, can you read that one more time?
Well, I've sort of been remarking on the fact that there are companies advertising that they'll sell homes in Park Forest regardless of the condition. How does this advertising affect the marketing and the public impression of the village? And is there anything that the village can do about this?
I know there were some mailers sent out about 6-7 months ago with the occupation agreements and occupancy agreements, that there is still some disinformation about what the selling process is and what the village's stance is and what they do when they come into a house. But we need to really start remarketing Park Forest. We need, right now, anytime that you come in and rehab a house on 50% more construction or a business, and Park Forest owns a lot of commercial buildings in the area, they have to come in and put a fire suppression system in. It's one of the new ordinances, and that's going to become a national ordinance. They say, we understand that. So that's $1,000 to every 100 square feet. So if you've got a 1,100 square feet house, they're going to be putting in an $1,100 fire suppression system. Then, on top of it, they're told they got to put that, and then they got to be told they're going to pay the back taxes on the properties. So these developers are being told, whether it's commercial or residential are being told that they get a double hit as soon as they get the property. We recently just sold 2 houses to a developer for $5,000 apiece with the idea that it will increase home ownership and home occupied. We are not going to decrease the back taxes for someone who's going to come in and put a rental in, but we are going to increase the home ownership in Park Forest. We are going to incentivize by lowering the back tax rate if they guarantee the developer that they'll put into homeowner status. This is a way that we can help our residents, and I believe that this is a way for the upward mobility of Park Forest. Thank you.
Ms. Brandon?
The question was in regards to the signage that comes through the village and about selling our homes.
Well, and where people have advertised that you can buy a house in.
I have seen, yes, and I was just verifying the question. I have seen those signs here in the village. I've actually seen those signs throughout the south suburbs. I always question myself, and I wonder if I would see those kinds of signs if I were to go to Orland Park, or if I would go to Tinley Park, okay? But I've seen those signs here in Park Forest, I've seen them in Manchester, I've seen them all around the south suburban area. So what does that say? It's not just about Park Forest. It says that these people feel that they can come in and degrade our communities by being willing to buy them for nothing and then rent them or do whatever. Is that good for us? No. Every time I see one of those signs, you can ask Manager Vic, I'm on the phone saying, there is a sign here and needs to be moved. Because number one, it's illegal, it's against our ordinance. You're putting a sign on public property, it's against the ordinance. And number two, it is devaluing our community. And I'm not for that. So when I see the sign, and if you see a sign, I think you should do the same thing. I mean, it's not legal. Do you want people saying they can come into your community and just buy up your property for nothing? No. No, because your property has more value to it than that. So we need to make sure that these people are not permitted to come into our town and do what they're doing. And I have been doing that, and I hope that you will do that too when you see one of those signs again. We, as a community, need to take care of our community. It's where we all live, so when we see something that's going on and you don't like it, say something. You know, isn't that the thing? You see something, say something. And then to have it addressed. Then if it's not addressed, say something again. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
I want to touch this and then I'm going to go over a little bit, but it does relate. It definitely take our property value down. And with the situation that we are in right now, we don't need any other problems as far as taking our property values down. Now, enough about that. I'm tired of the discrimination that people have with, and I'm a homeowner, with rentals or Section 8 versus homeowners. I'm tired of the Will County versus the Cook County and the co-op versus the homeowners and town ownership with Rich Township. It's thank you. It's crazy. But and the reason why I say this is because take the rental property away from us and take the Section 8 away from us. You think we got high taxes now? They'll be phenomenal. So the only thing that we can do is embrace the people that's coming in and show them how to be homeowners. And that's not what we're looking at right now. We have an ordinance already in place. It's a crime-free ordinance where if renters, which is, once again, in my book, is a group of people being discriminated against, is that if a homeowner child, not that homeowner, if they child do something that's illegal and they catch a case, that whole family get kicked out of Park Forest. But if a homeowner, if my son do something bad, there's no penalty for that. So they're under a lot of restraints already. So I'm thinking that we should embrace and teach them how to be homeowners instead of pointing a finger and saying that grass is not cut or snow is not shoveled. As far as the violent or anything like that, they're getting kicked out already. So that's not what our problem is. But if we get rid of rental property, co-ops or anything of that nature, our taxes are gonna skyrocket. And I don't mean reach east skyrocket, I mean.
Ms. Hawthorne?
I would agree and concur with what has already been said. However, I think when you consider marketing, the stigma that has been placed on Park Forest after the shutting down of the projects in Chicago was that we're now a Section 8 community or things of that nature. And I think that we need to restore the pride within our community. I believe that each one can reach one and that we can take back our blocks. I believe that as we continue to offer that pride in the community and in homeowners, we've got to come together and we need to talk about. I remember when they did the Angel Network and Oprah wanted to buy homes and she was taking people out of the projects and she was building them homes, and they found out that that did not work because you didn't change the mindset of the people. So if you want to change the mindset of the people, we have to show them something different. So we have to see what they're doing. Exposure is key. You have to see what they're doing in other neighborhoods. Again, that partnership piece is really important. Our taxes are high. There's a stigma being placed on our community. Then what are other communities doing that are right next door that don't have signs in their yard saying, here, buy and do? So our sign here says, live, grow, and discover. I believe that if you don't discover who you are, you cannot grow, and then we cannot begin to live. So once we discover that, okay, this is a plight to our community, how can we change the way we're being marketed? And I believe that as we come together with the homeowners, again, with the people who have Section 8s and the cooperatives, that we can actually show, each one can teach one, and then we can reach a better marketing stance for our community.
Thank you. No rebuttals? All right.
Yes, I do. I don't feel that our community is a renter versus co-op versus homeowners. I think it's, you know, co-ops began in this community. It was the first housing in this community. And I lived in the co-ops, and I actually found it to be quite a good community, very fun and family oriented. We don't have Section 8s. I think we need to get rid of that term. It's voucher certificate, not Section 8. And if a person needs to have some subsidy to have good housing, I don't see anything wrong with that. Yes, we do teach, and really those are not our issues. Our issues related to people who recklessly rent their property without checking out the person, without seeing what kind of, you know, my thing is, if you're gonna rent property, you say to yourself, is that a person I wanna live next door to? Okay, does that person present the kind of thing that I would want to live next door to?
Thank you.
Rebuttal, please.
All righty.
I just want to let you know that we have a housing authority in town. That housing authority, we have 177 vouchers, and there's 404 portable vouchers. But what have we done with that housing authority with the $5.8 million that we're going to spend on it this year? And we will get it back in federal tax revenue, but what are we doing for those residents? As candidate Renee said, what are we doing for the upward mobility program? So while I was lobbying in Springfield this past year, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has a program for low-income families to achieve greater economic self-sufficiency. It's called having a Move to Work program. There's only one other housing authority in the state, and that's Champaign County. And what they do is they get funding for going to work, for transportation to work, transportation for job training, money for job training, money for child care, money for housing. What we're doing is we're providing that upward mobility program for residents to get off the housing voucher and to become part of this community. And when we work with developers, we can do just that, to give them that house and give them a part and a stake in Park Forest.
Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, all righty.
Once again, we have to understand how this thing works. When the voucher, the Section 8, or whatever you want to call it, when they were sent to communities, they were supposed to be sent to communities that have resources. They're supposed to have communities that have jobs, and this is not the place. So we kind of shoot them in the foot when they come here. And then, once again, if they do have a job, I'm talking about someplace close as University Park and Clorox, because I've had problems with hiring people there, because how do they get to Clorox from Park Forest if they don't have a vehicle? And these are things that we have to realize, that we have layer on layer on layer of situations. So be careful when a person is saying, I'm gonna wave this magic wand and fix this, and they're not doing anything now and haven't did anything in the past. When they say it's gonna be abracadabra when I become mayor and this is gonna be fixed.
But I'm just sorry. Being an individual that received vouchers, I would just say that education was very important, and I think that as a village, yes, having grants and things of that nature, but that has to be intuitive. That initiative has to come from the individual. We have to restore that sense of pride. I had to want to do better. And so I believe that the grants and those subsidies are great, but how are we then yet holding them accountable and responsible for what we're giving them? My goal is always to empower and not enable an individual.
Okay, moving on, this question we will start with Ms. Brandon. What is your vision for an economic model for Park Forest, and how is it different from things that have been tried in the past?
At this point in time, I think, seeing that where retail is, we will not be a retail center. I think that what we are good for, we're good for small businesses and small niche kinds of things that will, type of businesses that will bring people to us, because we have that particular business here. We have a number of home businesses in this community, and some of those we need to work with to get them out of the home and bring them into the forefront so that they can be more visible. Some home businesses probably can't do that totally, so that whole idea, if you remember years ago, of the incubator, I think this is the opportunity for the incubator. So you have a business at home, you have a project that you need to do, but you don't have the space and that type of thing, then the incubator would be the place that you could come and get that project done. It would also give you that opportunity to network with other people there. One of the things that's coming up right now is the kitchen that is attached to Dining on the Green is not used by Southbound Catering because they have their own kitchen. We just have a person who is buying that kitchen and will make a commercial kitchen into it. So it will be an opportunity for people to utilize the commercial kitchen for their businesses. It will be the opportunity for some cooking classes and that type of thing. So it's that type of vision that I have for this village. I think we are a nice knit, tight community, and small business is where we need to go. But part of all of that is getting the marketing out. I see businesses, and I'll ask somebody about something, and they'll say, well, I didn't know that was there. So we need to really push for these businesses to do more marketing so they have more visibility, so that they, in turn, are more successful. And then when they're successful, then this village and the downtown area becomes successful.
Mr. Brown?
Downtown area, I would turn that in, I've said this 100 times, I wanted to turn that into a entertainment district because it's off the beaten road. I want to grow and blossom the businesses that we have. That we have a live theater that has opened back up. We have a movie theater that we could open up. We have 2 art galleries. We have an acting school. Once again, with my son, every time we do anything for fun, we have to go out of town to do it. I think we should have a fun zone where the grocery store was and bring some live entertainment. We have a club we're trying to save, have that there, but some other live entertainment. We have to bring new blood into Park Forest. We have to bring some new blood in Park Forest. So the best part of Lincoln Highway is Park Forest. I would love to bring storefronts at the bottom with condos going straight up. I think that's the way of the future for Park Forest. Building homes are not going to do it. All the homes that we have built has failed, from Tamarack to the downtown Park Forest. They're on 3 to 4 generations of losing houses. But if we go straight up with condos, and now when they come downstairs, they can have a Starbucks and a cleaning place and a sit-down place. But when they get ready to go to work, they're gonna walk to the metro, shoot downtown in 30 minutes, and then they're gonna bring their friends back. And they're gonna have downtown living, but not with downtown pricing. And then the western part of it, do commercial businesses there. And if I could squeeze this in, I also want to bring, and don't laugh at this, but I want to bring a western town to Park Forest. So we could bring people from all over the place. And you can look up this place called Rawhide that's in Arizona. I would love to put that with an old golf club, an old golf course was at. Rawhide is an old western town where horses, they have a shootout at sundown, they roast pigs and things of that nature. I think the kids, and when you have visiting people, it'll give Park Forest a signature. We're not gonna put a Great America there, but I think that we need to bring a huge attraction that would bring Park Forest to the limelight for everyone.
Ms. Hawthorne?
I agree with a lot of what you said concerning, Mr. Brown, concerning the 3650 is what I call it. That's the address to our Lincoln Highway stretch there in Park Forest. I believe manufacturing is going to be key. Again, with small businesses, if they can't afford the taxes, then they're not going to come out with they're again a small business. So if you want to attract them, we've got to do some type of incentivizing. We've got to give them something that they believe will help them. And then here's the thing, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Hey, we'll let your business come to Park Forest, but you've got to hire some of our residents. We have to prepare our children and our youth and our adults that are already here for the 21st century. We need more STEM environments. People who are operating in STEM and engineering automatically make almost 60% more than people with regular degrees. So I think that information, and you're going to hear me say a lot about education as an educator. I think information and education will help will help our community, but we've got to have manufacturing things. Like you said, we wish Walmart would have came. Hey, let's invite Amazon. Let's invite Amazon. We've got some space, and let's see how we can sit at the table and talk about bringing Amazon right here. The nearest one is in Montgomery. Hey, we need a Park Forest satellite site. Let's talk about what we can do, and then the youth can get those, do the drops and the drop-offs, and we can have year-round youth employment as opposed to just summer jobs. I started summer jobs with Cedar and Aunt Martha's when I was as young as 13 years old. Let's bring those things back. I have plans for our cut above the rest and things that we can do to help offset some of the things that are already happening. Our income within the village can determine our outcome. We can start actually giving back to those taxpayers and people that live within this community. But again, manufacturing, let's call Amazon.
Mr. Vanderbilt?
Can you read the question one more time?
What is your vision for an economic model for Park Forest, and how is it different from things that have been tried in the past?
One, we can't have a grocery store downtown anymore. We just got to get over that mindset. We cannot have a grocery store downtown. We can have it on Western Avenue where we get 50,000 traffic count a day. We can get it on Western Avenue where we get 25 to 30,000 a day. We need to start looking for commerce on the outskirts of our boundaries. But yes, a small business incubator, and this should have been done 16 years ago, but a small business incubator within downtown Park Forest, incentivizing home-based businesses to come into downtown Park Forest. And if they can't afford it, looking for multiple partners who are maybe doing the same investment strategies and working them together in those environments. We also need to remarket that downtown, but also we need to start letting people know Steak and Shake is coming to Park Forest. We've got to let people know this. We got to wake up. When we get Steak and Shake at Route 30, we're going to have a stoplight there. We're going to make sure people are stopping right before they come into our town, and they're going to turn into our community. We're going to make this happen, and we've got to create that vision and let you know that it's coming. The same developer is the one who turned around what was the Illini Apartments, right? Do we all remember how those looked? They now are called the Majestic Luxury Townhomes. and are doing a great job. That same developer is the one who's going to invest in our community, who we are helping develop. We need to further that. We also need to extend the municipal boundaries south so that we can finally get Agrati, who's been using our sewer system for over 5 years for free, and are now going to be getting our water. We want to get them in because then we can get the sales tax revenue. We need to extend that because also, I was recently at the Prairie State College Economic Forum, and we learned that manufacturing is going and is running fast-paced. That is one of the fastest growing indicators within the market, and so we've got to double down on that. And I think as a village, we've done that with ImageWorks, but now we also need to provide career pathways for our students into manufacturing with Agrati on the south end of town. We can really start developing career pathways for our students at a young age, no matter what it is. Thank you.
But,
With all due respect, I don't need another hamburger. I can go anywhere on Lincoln Highway and get the hamburgers of my choice. As a taxpayer with a homeowner with a 5-bedroom home, I need tax relief. I need something that's going to generate multiple streams of income into this community. And if Steak and Shake were coming, why did they go and build in Chicago first and make us these promises? Yes, I'm keeping hope alive, but show me what can you do for me now. Things that can happen right away, immediately. Because a small business like a Steak and Shake or a restaurant, it's going to take 7 years to start seeing a return on what they've spent before. So are we going to wait another 7 years for empty promises? I'm just saying, I don't need another hamburger.
And I can understand that you don't need another hamburger. But understand too that, on behalf of Mr. Bugley, the Hyde Park Steak and Shake that he opened recently was a building there. So that was much easier to do. He is still committed to this. He's getting this property. So he intends to carry out his promise to this community. And the thing of it is that this type of thing is not going to turn over overnight because he's got to build from scratch. It's a difference between having a building that you can then rehab or retrofit to fit your needs than having to dig the ground and build straight up. But that aside, I think one of the most important things that we have to encourage in our community, not just our community, but generally speaking, is the manufacturing aspect. Get kids to understand that being in manufacturing can be neat. Technology, STEM is neat. It can be fun, and it is certainly pays off. Our kids need to get over their little fingers and kind of become more educated as to what they can become.
thank you. Are we ready to move on?
No.
I'm sorry.
Renee, I owe you one, so here you go. I agree with you and this had nothing to do with Mr. Bugley. I think he's a brilliant businessman. But like Ms. Hawthorne said, that if as a business person, you have to look at your demographics. And on Lincoln Highway, specifically, we have 2 White Castles, 2 McDonald's, a Burger King, a Wendy's, and had Shoot, and it went out of business. And then on Salt Trail, we had 2 McDonald's, and we had a Burger King that went out of business. So the people are saying, what, Renee?
I don't need another hamburger.
So I'm thinking that we should be focused on something more or less like a Buffalo Wild Wings, so it could be where the family could go out, or me and the guys could get. Who said no? Well, what about Hooters then? But what I'm saying that we have to go with something different that could be more inviting instead of the quick burger where we can sit down, because there's nothing that we could actually sit down in around unless you're going back over to Matheson.
Thank you. Thank you. All righty, Mr. Vanderbilt?
If all you heard was Steak and Shake, that's the problem. Because there's so much more to the plan than that. We've also got to start creating a cyclical economy in Park Forest. We've got a climate action resiliency plan. You can get paid to grow corn, an entire lot, a vacant lot in Park Forest, and you can get reimbursed to grow that corn. You can raise chickens in a vacant lot, get paid to raise the chickens, and then sell the eggs at the farmer's market. We can start creating things within the community, and just like that, you can start growing vegetables. We already have 14 community gardens. I was one of the first ones to help build a community garden in Park Forest. We need to start promoting the community gardens more. I know we have one in Michelle Obama now, and those kids are actually going to be selling their items at the farmer's market. This is what I'm talking about. We can create a cyclical economy within Park Forest and still focus on the large things like industrial manufacturing. This is a multi-approach, multifaceted approach. You just can't talk about one thing and exclude it. We're talking about every facet, creating career pathways for kids. And the governor is focusing on cradle to career programs, and that's where he's going to start focusing that money, and we can do that in Park Forest.
This is going to be our last question. We'll follow it up with the closing remarks of 2 minutes from each candidate. But this question will start with Mr. Brown. The questioner wants to know about recent spending on parks in the village. If you know how much was spent and what the source of the funds were, grants or private or village funds.
You have to be careful with that. There's a lot of money being spent, but then you have grant money, and then certain grant money you only could use for certain projects. Mr. Vanderbilt had mentioned at the last forum that he was the only person that voted against the park that's next to Village Hall. Had I been on the board at the time, he'd have had a person that would have agreed with him and not would have put a park next to the Village Hall. I would have definitely went and reinvested in some of the parks that we have already. Central Park needs help, Salmon Park needs help. Actually, they tore down the pavilion in Salmon Park, which was beautiful to me, and now it's gone. That's the part that butts up against my church. So every time I come out of church, right after I say, "Oh Lord," I look at this eyesore. And it's just a lot of parks. And I think if the grant money would enable us to use that toward the tennis ball and racket, where we can join, because the rec center that we have in Park Forest for the kids to play ball in is ridiculous. It's part of the Michelle Obama old school. And the basketball courts are almost coming out of the wall, windows are broke, and these are the conditions that we have our young kids playing in.
Yeah, it's Ms. Hawthorne.
Repeat the question for me.
It was, recently the village has spent quite a bit of money on parks. Do you know how much has been spent and what the source of the funds were?
I know that we spent the money from CN Railroad, and that a portion of that CN Railroad, a portion of that was grant, so we had to actually do that. I agree with I would have perhaps voted no concerning that. I think when we look at the parks and the things that our children are doing, our population, we have, our demographics are right at 64.9, 65% African Americans. I believe that we need to have our pulse and our ear to the ground as to what the people, as the community continues to change, what they actually need. Because if they're not participating or partaking in Park Forest and utilizing those parks in a positive way, I think we need to look at what type of youth development and service centers we can actually offer them. Would I have voted for another park being resurrected when there are being constructed, when there are so many parks around us deteriorating? I couldn't have seen myself doing that, but I would have seen how we could apply for more grants and actually use those monies to build youth service centers and things of that nature. And definitely with the help I see the Michelle Obama gym every day that the Park District, the Parks and Recs, they are using there, and it's quite deplorable. And if we want them to feel better about themselves and our community, I think we need to offer more to them so that they can take pride in where they live. So again, my answer to that was no, I would not have supported that.
Mr. Vanderbilt?
Can you repeat the question?
How much was spent recently on parks and what the source of the funds were, whether it was village funds, grants, or private funds?
I was the only one who clearly saw there was no economic benefit in building a park next to downtown Park Forest, next to Village Hall. $450,000 was reallocated from the Canadian National Noise Mitigation Agreement money that was given to the village to help with noise abatement for the increased train traffic along the Canadian National Railways. That money was left over. It was always meant to be used for the community. We have Salmonok Park. Last night I was at a fundraiser for the homeless shelter in the community. I left there and I agreed with Mr. Brown and his church. All I saw was the park benches there that was empty. I remember how the structure was meant to always look like Grace United Protestant Church. That's why it was built the way it was, so that it would mirror the church, and now it's empty. That $450,000 could have rebuilt the Salmonok Park, could have gone to Michelle Obama, because right now we do share a facility. And right now, if the village does take that over, we're gonna have to take the HVAC, the electrical, the heating, and security, and have to build an ADA accessible entrance. Then we're gonna have to reinforce the east wall where there's a foundational crack from the ceiling to the floor. We've got to start doing something for our youth. They are dying, and we've got to step up and give them options and opportunities, the same as I had growing up here in this community. That's what should have been done with that $450,000, not spent it on grass and stone next to Village Hall.
Brandon?
Yes. Just to let you know, Salmonok Park is being revitalized. Yes, the pavilion is gone, but it's coming back, and it will be new. If you came to the Fall Fest during the fall, which was the first one that we've had, that was really a great turnout. It was a lot of fun had by all. And I think that going forward, we'll have another one of those. But by the time we have the next Fall Fest, the pavilion will be see what a great new Salmonok Park will have, and people will again be able to enjoy it. The other parks are constantly being looked at and money being put in and looked at their usage. Murphy Park is now being turned into a more natural thing, so that park will be completed in the spring. We've taken away parks, but we have a lot of open land. So we've taken away some of the parks and made rain gardens for those parks instead of putting them into parks. The whole thing about the park, it's not a park, it's landscaping. If you remember what was on that side of the building, it was Marshall Fields. And in that, when Marshall Fields came down, that became really an ugly spot because there were bricks that were in, there was clay, it was uneven, and really not very usable. The process for that was part of capital budget. That was the process that was looked at. How do we improve that area so that when people come to the downtown dining, the greens, whether it's for Main Street nights or other activities, how can we make that usable? There is a labyrinth that's there. There'll be an explanation how to make use of that. We're hoping that people will come and enjoy that as much as some of the other parks. We do need to continue to evaluate the needs of our parks. The Recreation Center is an entity all of its own, and we ended up in that situation not by design of ours.
Thank you. No rebuttals. All righty then. We will now move to the closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give you his or her closing statement. For this, we'll start with Mr. Vanderbilt.
First, I'd like to say thank you to the nonpartisan committee of Park Forest, the residents, including my wife, for without you, I wouldn't be here even alive today, and for being the stronghold to the journey that started back in middle school in our church. We must be bold, fiscally responsible, and prepare the next generation. I was Mr. Rich East in 2002. I have never taken that lightly, but with pride and diligence to preserve the green and gold in our community. My wife and I both lived in Bloom, Money, and Rich Township. We understand the struggles to have 5 different school districts. And that is why, as trustee, I was able to get the village board to agree to start an education commission, which was instrumental in saving Talala Elementary from closure. As mayor, the education committee would grow to be a board-level commission to be comprised of school district representation and grant writers with the village employees and elected officials to monthly foster collaboration and creating career pathways for our youth and young adults. Furthermore, I would like to air on cable access our local schools' events and programs and have them aired weekly so that we can tell our residents and their kids can see the talents of our schools that they are producing, so these kids can be seen and their talents can be seen throughout the community, and community support can be for our schools. I love that when I go back to East, there are still some of the very people that taught me there and the ones that graduated with me. We've lost many over the years, and these current kids have lost is too much, and it's heartbreaking. Now more than ever, this town needs us to step up and lead the next generation of greatness. Please vote Jonathan Vanderbilt for Mayor of Park Forest. Thank you.
Ms. Hawthorne?
I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and the frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. Thank you, Dr. King, for those words. It is a dream that's deeply rooted in Park Forest. I believe that we can be a community that thrives in manufacturing. I believe that our children are not bad, but they're bored, and we can develop structures that they will be proud in and want to be a part of. I believe that on every commission that we have in Park Forest, that we will have youth that are sitting there being trained in the way that they should go so that they are invested in their community. Because one day, my 6-year-old grandson will actually sit in a community that is thriving, and he will want to be a part of and want to come back to a community that is yet thriving. I also believe that we should have jobs that are available year-round and not just summer jobs, starting when they're 16 years old and they can go out into the community and get jobs in other places. I believe training them up in the way that they should go is a real integral part, because any community that is not invested in their youth and in their seniors is a community that is dying. It is being deprived and needs to be revived. I believe that we should have shopping opportunities in the community, educational and enrichment partnerships. I believe that we can X out negativity, publicity with the Safer Neighborhood programming, and we can assess the local and residential property taxes by sitting down and having conversation. Again, earlier it was said that success is nothing without you. It takes power in the partnership. If you want someone who can catapult this community into the 21st century, vote for Renee Hawthorne. I work with grants. I've lobbied in Springfield. I've lobbied with 21st century grants, and I am someone that will advocate for the Village of Park Forest. My name is Renee Hawthorne, and I approve this message.
Mr. Brown?
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for coming out. You could have did a million other things than come here to listen to us. And I love that you all are part of the cabinet commitment for this community. On the back of my card, I think everyone have these. It's the 5 E's, which is engagement, engagement, explain, employment, education, and energy. Please read it. I want you all to know that whether I'm in office or not, I've never disappeared. I've always has been committed to making this community the best community that I could possibly make it. Even though I've been here probably the less out of here, you always need new ideas to come in and make changes and shake things up. And that's what I'm here for. I can tell you this, I am committed to finding work for citizens of Park Forest. I want to make a resident requirement for certain positions in Park Forest so our residents could get that employment and we can see our dollars turn over. I'm committed to bringing businesses to Park Forest. I'm already working with businesses. I'm also committed to the youth and the safety. These are things that I'm already doing. I want to add something. I've been in politics for over 20 years. I'm what they call a unicorn that don't exist, because in that 20 years I never did any backstabbing and I've always had loyalty. My word is my bond. The nonpartisan group, I want to thank you, and the commitment that I made to you without doing bad campaigning, I have kept my word All of us have made words that we would not do bad campaigning. I've also even shook hands with some of the candidates up here saying, let's not do bad campaigning. But at the same time, we allow people to put signs out, and now when my signs are up, they're being stolen. The sad part about it is this. They're being stolen out of senior citizens' home by young kids. All of us up here are talking about we want to keep our kids safe. We want to keep them to do the right thing, and we want to put this facility here for them to do this and that. But we're either paying them or getting them to steal out of senior citizen homes. And what's the reflection of having a great community just because of the election? You want somebody to vote for you, so you're seeing kids to steal from senior citizens' homes? I think it's ridiculous, and you should hold us accountable for our actions.
Thank you. Mr. Brandon?
Thank you. I really, truly hope that none of us are doing that.
Vote for something else, because it's happening.
You know, I think having lived here for as long as I've had, I've seen many changes. We all have. And those changes have not been the ones that we want. But that doesn't mean that it's doom and gloom and all of that. I still think Park Forest is a great village to live in. That's why I'm still here. Otherwise, I could have moved to Timbuktu or someplace. And being a Park Forestist, I consider myself that, yeah, I've done that logo, Live, Grow, and Discover. I've discovered lots of things and lots of people and lots of opportunities that I've made use of, and I consider that I have grown through being here in Park Forest. I would be a different person if I were not here. So I am committed to continuing to being the advocate for Park Forest that I am. I look around and see what is it that we need that somebody else has that we can utilize. I'm not going to make you great, big, huge promises. What I will promise to you is that I am going to put all that I have, put it forward to make this village the type of village that you want to continue to live in. I will continue to look at how we obtain grants and use other people's money. I think it's a great thing to use other people's money to our benefit, don't you? Develop strategies that we get new businesses, we have industry, we have further development. Look for developers who see the glow that Park Forest can have, because that's all we need is one developer, and then that can make a big difference. I am committed to really working for you and providing you with leadership and utilizing my experience so that we will move forward. When that day comes, as I'm elected as your mayor, I'm on the ground running just for you. So I ask that you put your vote for me, May Brandon, as your next mayor, and thank you again for all of you for being here. This has been a really wonderful audience. Thank you to the nonpartisan committee for this opportunity.
I want to thank... thank all the candidates and all of you for coming, and to just tell you there were so many wonderful questions that we didn't get to today. So I hope you'll have an opportunity to stay and talk with the candidates after for a little while. I hope they'll have an opportunity to be around. A few of the questions were more informational types of things, like who controls what or what's happening with such and such a project, that maybe they can be addressed at a more individual level. Also, if you want to hear more from all the candidates, there's at least 2 more opportunities. One is next Sunday at the Jesus is the Life Church on Orchard Drive. That will be a candidates forum at 2 o'clock. I believe that is just for the mayors. That candidates forum is just for the mayors. Next Sunday at 2. The following Sunday is another forum sponsored by the nonpartisan committee, and all the offices will be addressed then, library and trustee as well as mayoral. That will be here at 1 o'clock on the 17th. And most of all, I want to encourage you all to get out and vote on April 2nd. Thanks again.
Can we give it up for our moderator? She did an excellent job.